I'm curious what you find most alarming about these documents that have been obtained by Bloomberg and also the revelation of Frances Haugen over the last couple of months. What troubles you the most?
So, to me, Frances Haugen is incredibly courageous for bringing these documents out. The impact of them is that they've shifted the conversation about Facebook from a focus on free speech issues to where it really belongs, which is on a business model that essentially puts 3 billion people onto a network with no boundaries and then unleashes a business model that promotes inflammatory emotions. So hate speech, disinformation, and conspiracy theories are given an economic advantage on Facebook. And the result is that ideas from the fringe, things like antivirus and white supremacy, have been mainstreamed. And that's undermined democracy, it's undermined public health, it's undermined privacy. And this is a huge problem. And if you're an investor, Facebook's been a great stock for you. But on a looking forward basis, you have to ask the question, if the US loses its ability to be a democracy, and if each one of us loses the ability to make our own choices because they're being made by internet platforms, is that a good trade, right? I think
Well,
that's the real question that comes up here.
and if you're an investor in Facebook today, it was a great day for Facebook. Facebook up at the close, Facebook up 3.5% after the close on the back of these results that are mixed. And on the same day that these, thousands of pages of documents have been poured through by multiple different news organizations. If that's not going to send Facebook stock down, what is?
Well, to be clear, I don't think the stock's a good measure of what's going on here. I think the stock market operates on a completely different timescale. And so I think investors are making the correct judgment, which is the numbers were terrific, at least relative to what you would have expected. Looking at Snap the other day, the impact of Apple changing privacy had a dramatic effect on Snap. At Facebook, they have a lot of dials to turn. They can lower the quality of the ads that they show. They can allow people, new users onto the site that, if you will, are not authentic. There are lots of dials that are available to them to make the numbers look good. But that's very short term. And I think investors have a super short time horizon here. Whereas the stuff going on with government is going to take time to process. You have legal issues relative to the SEC with disclosure, relative to insider trading. There's a big case in Delaware, 6 large pension plans that are accusing Facebook of insider trading around Cambridge Analytica. These things are felonies. There are Department of Justice cases relative to price fixing in digital advertising, related to there should be an investigation of the whistleblowers' information about human trafficking or about the January 6th insurrection, where again, Facebook has been implicated time and again in both the radicalization of people into QAnon and into Stop the Steal, and then allowing them to organize the protests and then the insurrection itself on Facebook. And it's obvious management knew about all of this stuff, and they always prioritize profit.
Does time spent on Facebook among teens dropping 16%, does that alarm you? Is that something that Facebook should have been more transparent about? Is that something that investors had known coming directly from the company itself? Would the stock be continuing to rise? Would revenue be continuing to grow $30 billion quarter after quarter?
So I think the issues that Facebook really faces is that in North America and Western Europe, its most profitable markets, it has reached saturation of the population. And there's no question that TikTok is draining people away from Instagram. And I look at this, and the bad press that Instagram's getting right now should accelerate that departure. And I don't think there's anything Facebook can do about it that's legitimate. They'd love to change the conversation to the metaverse, but that technology is not good enough to replace the hole that is being left in their business. Facebook is a mature company. It's not going to grow as rapidly. And if the numbers are higher in the short run, that's coming out of the future. And investors just need to be more careful. They should really
How big an opportunity do you think the metaverse actually is for Facebook, Roger? I mean, Mark Zuckerberg wants to bet the future on this, a potential name change on this. I mean, is that going to pick up the slack?
The name change has nothing to do with this. The name change is about distracting us from the fact that the company is going to face a series of legal problems, and Zuck personally is going to face some legal problems here. And this is a real test for our system, right? We've allowed this company and Google and others to run without any supervision. They've caused tremendous harm. they've made investors a fortune. And investors are incredibly thankful, but the rest of the country is pretty unhappy about it. And the question is, are we going to do something to try to restore some balance, or are we not going to do so? And the metaverse is literally a dream. And if you look at the demos, they're horrible. And to my mind, Facebook is going to spend so much time dealing with the problems that are being exposed now, both in court and in Congress, that the metaverse, but if they ever get it to work, it's going to come very late. And you're not going to want to wait from here to there on the hope of the metaverse. The name change is literally a distraction. It's literally something that they're just trying to do two things: to get us to look elsewhere, and they want to somehow find a way to insulate Mark Zuckerberg from legal liability for the problems that have already been created. And
At this point,
Sorry.
Roger, what kind of regulation do you think is realistic and right? Reid Hoffman, an investor in Facebook in the early days, just like yourself, told me that he's disappointed in Facebook as well, but he thinks that breaking up Facebook is the wrong approach because that'll make it even harder to centralize all of these systems and the AI technology that's needed to combat hate on a global scale. What do you think?
I think we have three areas we need to regulate, and they need to cover not just Facebook, but all of technology. We need to have safety regulations, something that functions like the FDA, that sits there and says, wait a minute, facial recognition, deep fakes have no valid commercial use. They shouldn't be allowed in the market until they prove a valid use. The same way would be true of the pharmaceutical. And companies like Google and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook would have to make changes in their business practices to make them safe for people. And that would be something that this FDA-like thing would look at every year. The second area is privacy. This whole notion that companies are allowed to use data to manipulate the choices and behavior of people, that is really not an American idea. I mean, it's basically taking away our right of self-determination. So it's like child labor. It's the sort of thing that we should ban outright. And then thirdly, on antitrust, I think the real thing is to allow for competition. To me, if you're going to break them up, that comes downstream. But first, you have to open up markets and prevent companies from monopolizing the way everything takes place in the economy. You saw what happened when Facebook went down. The millions of small businesses depend on Facebook were shut down by that. And that's what monopolies do, and that's not good.